So welcome, everyone. First, I want to begin by recognizing that our work and the work of our members takes place on traditional Indigenous territories across Ontario. We also wish to acknowledge that the offices of Parks and Recreation Ontario are located on the traditional Indigenous territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We are grateful for the opportunity to work on this land and are mindful of the broken covenants and strive to make this right with the land and with each other. So our topic today is bringing our camps and programs online. And what someone said to me yesterday was that what's happened in the past 3 weeks in our sector probably would have taken a year or more, but it's been amazing to see how we have responded, how our sector has responded to the changing circumstances and still trying to meet the needs of our community. We have 4 fantastic speakers here today. We have, and I'll introduce those in a minute. After we go through the agenda, we're going to hear from Boys and Girls Clubs, a small rural perspective from the Ontario Camps Association, what will the summer hold, and work that they are doing in collaboration with other organizations. We'll hear about some seniors programming, and then we'll get a perspective from the University of Guelph and how universities play a vital role in community engagements as well as what they do with their students. So before we get going, I'm going to ask, we're going to take a little poll. So here it comes up on the screen. Are you offering recreation programs online currently? You can put in your responses. So we see no, lots of no, but we're thinking about it. Great. So majority still not offering something online, but lots of people are already going there. So our next poll is if you're offering programs, for what age groups are you offering them? So if you're just joining us a couple of minutes late, welcome to the webinar. We're just doing a few polls before we get into the presentation by our presenters today. Oh, it's pretty even. Lots of stuff for youth. Of course, focus on children is fantastic. And finally, our last poll is if you are offering programs online, are you charging a fee? Just a reminder, if you are on the phone, to please mute your phone line. Yeah, most people are not charging for programs at this time, and I think that's probably pretty standard. We are all just learning what this new medium and what this new way of delivering programs holds for us. So great, thank you for that. That's helpful for Pro in terms of some of the work that we're doing to move forward with best practices and to support the sector for however long this is going to be with us. So back to who we have here with us. Our presenters today, Adam Joyner, the newly appointed Executive Director of Boys and Girls Clubs of Ottawa. Tammy Botham is the Supervisor of Programs and Facilities in the town of Innisfil. Heather Davidson is wearing 2 hats today. She's the Supervisor of Gym and Club Programming for the City of Hamilton and Vice President on the OCA Ontario Campus Association Board of Directors. And Beth Fisher is the supervisor of aquatics safety certifications and active kids programs in the Department of Athletics at the University of Guelph. So first of all, on behalf of PRO, thank you to our presenters for being here. And I am going to pass things over to Adam to begin. And so Adam, if you just want to tell me when to switch slides, and that goes for all our presenters, that'd be great.
That's great. Thank you so much. Wow, it's great to see so many participants here. Yeah, so today is actually my first day on the job. This is a great way to start my my new role. I started going to the club when I was 9 and never really left. So I'm very excited about this new role, and then of course very excited to talk to all of you about our initiatives and how they work. Like I said, you know, I've been around the club for a long time, and this is obviously going to be a change for how we deliver programs, and we knew that right from the beginning. As a Boys and Girls Club of Canada movement, we recognize that, you know, just because our buildings are closed, the young people we serve, we're certainly still in need of support and services, and we needed to find a way to try and support them as much as we can. All of our programs are all of our clubs across the country are unique in the sense that they run under a federated movement, but each one has its own unique diverseness and diversity in terms of how it monitors and measures programs, but also what types of programs that they offer. So getting everyone together to have a conversation about how virtual club programs work was imperative to make sure that we were following some standard practices and procedures to ensure the safety of our parents, our members. The first thing that was developed is we developed a virtual club manual on best practices, and that was released, which included information on, you know, receiving signed consent, how do you support virtual programming, what are staffing ratios, and then finally we're getting to a point of reporting to our donors, and how do we measure quality within that. So I'll walk through each of those components and kind of give you some ideas as to what we're doing at clubs across Canada. So the first piece is, you know, in terms of signed consent. So each club recognizes that it's important that they need to get some form of consent from families, and how we do that is we have some language that has been developed to ensure that, you know, parents are aware of the programs that we're offering, and that their children are safe in those programs. So in Ottawa, how we've done that is an email. We have established a virtual BGCO at bgcottawa.org email, and anyone who's interested in signing up with programs has to send an email to that email address. Then we connect with the parent with the rules and regulations and the consent, and then once they report back that they've agreed, we send them the link and password to the programs that we're offering. The next slide, not yet, but the next slide you'll see will have the listing of programs that we're at now, and I'll get into a local lens as soon as I'm done this component. And then, you know, in that we also wanted to ensure our parents that the support we were providing was safe and supportive to our families and members. So we guarantee a ratio of 15 to 1, even within the programs that we're offering. I should take a step back and say our programs in Ottawa are for ages 6 to 18, and we have a wide range of programs and services within that. There's always a minimum of 2 staff on every call, and right now we're basically mostly using Zoom, and so we have a staff that's moderating the room and then a staff that's facilitating. Even if there's 3 kids in the room, if it's a smaller program, let's just say like a homework club support program, we keep 2 staff in at all times, just to ensure, you know, there's 3 in the room basically. And then so supporting the actual programs to ensure, you know, chats are appropriate if the chat is allowed. Some programs it is, some programs it isn't, depending on the age and what the program is. And then the breakout rooms, which we don't use. So we don't use breakout rooms. If you've ever used Zoom, you know that there's an option to have smaller rooms, which right now we're not accessing, just to ensure that everyone is safe and supported. In terms of staffing and training for staffing, this was actually relatively smooth, surprisingly smooth. Obviously, our staff are great facilitators, and that's what they do on a daily basis. And it was really just getting them comfortable with the technology, and making sure that they felt comfortable managing the Zoom call, managing how the web technology works. But once they got the hang of it, it's very much similar to running a program in a facility, in the sense that you're looking at the faces of the kids that you're working with, and you can see the interactivity between the members and the kids that are there. So I'm going to talk about reporting to donors, but what I'll do now is flip to the next slide, and then I'll talk about measuring quality. So Diane, if you can move to the next, perfect. So this is our virtual program that we're currently offering in Ottawa. We have a few great partners already lined up and supporting the program as well. So we have, for example, a coding program, which is a partnership with Shopify and Virtual Ventures. So we offer that every Tuesday. We have CrossFit. So we focus our programming on 4 different pillars of programs. So we wanted to ensure that we were meeting those 4 pillars. So that for us, that's education, health and wellness, physical activity, health and wellness, creative arts, and leadership. So it was really important that we access that in our pillar model. The other thing is we wanted to ensure we were meeting programming for all ages of children. So we have some programs that are focused on age 6 to 12, some that are more for 13 to 18. So when parents come to sign up, we give them the options and offerings, and they get the user link and the passcode, and away they go. In terms of measuring quality, just because it's online doesn't mean it has to be any less quality than we'd have at a rec center. So we're just looking now at measuring the quality of the programs that we're offering, and looking at whether the Quest 2 tool, as an example, would be a viable option for that. We certainly want to ensure that the quality we're offering is high quality programming that anyone can access, that still has that safe and supportive feel throughout the program. So we're definitely doing that component, and we've been quite lucky in terms of establishing grants to help support the cost of some of this programming as well. I think a lot of donors recognize the viability of these programs, and also recognize that the young people we're serving are sometimes facing extreme isolation. And so, they recognize the value of it, and they're supporting it. The last thing I'll say, and it's just anecdotal, I was on one of our programs, and there was one family with 6 kids, and they had one cell phone, and they were all huddled around listening to a scary story. It's amazing the impact that had, just seeing that family. The mom who was with them was, every time there's a scary part, was kind of poking them a little bit and getting them up and excited. And these families are looking for connection, it's our job to ensure that they have a connection in probably the most challenging times that some of these families have faced. That's pretty much it, unless there's any questions or comments.
Thanks very much, Adam. That is a fantastic overview of what you're doing. And I think the ability of the clubs to access funding is great for certainly for those organizations that have regular donors. And we have a question from Scott: how many children are participating?
Great question. Yeah, I probably should have covered that. Thanks, Scott. We have it's a mix. So some programs will have a small amount of children, and we've had as many as 35 children participating in a program. We're still just in the launching phase. So this is we're in our 3rd week. So we're anticipating more, and we're also bringing on partners to help facilitate some of these programs, and also to recruit new membership from it. So we're anticipating that we'll definitely grow from this lens. We also, I should mention, started with only a few programs, made sure that the technology worked, and then grew as time progressed. So this is a more fulsome program, and we have a few more programs we'll be adding in the next few weeks. And then lastly, actually, since I'm on this lens, we're also developing a microsite, which is going to be a kids youth focused site. Compared to a website, which is more everything, this will be just about kids and youth. So I'll definitely send that link out when it's completely developed.
Great, thanks. We have questions. Are you charging? And where are staff working? Are they working from home or are they actually in the clubs?
Yeah, so we're working from, all of our staff are working from home. We established a protocol in terms of how to do that properly right from the beginning and providing them the technology they needed. So, we provided them any cameras that they need, laptops to be able to do the work. We're certainly not wanting to put anyone at risk, so we don't really want people going to the club at this time. So that's been our way of working. I can see some of the other, if you want me, Diane, I can just read some of the questions.
Sure, perfect.
Yeah, so the platform we're using is mostly Zoom. We're also using like Facebook Live and Instagram Live for more one-way communication. So we'll post a couple videos and of course you'll see a couple chats come up, but generally speaking, our technology that we're using the most is Zoom, and it's actually been very interactive, and it's been a really good profile to use. I know everyone's heard of the Zoom bombing and things that have been happening, so we're really careful with the passwords, and we also have a moderator, so if there was anything, we're able to eliminate the situation quite quickly. In terms of summer camp, we don't offer summer camp at the Boys and Girls Club. We run or in Ottawa at least, a lot of clubs do across the country, but the only camp we have is an overnight summer camp called Camp Smitty. So that one we don't do any of those pieces. We will be starting to talk about our clubs reopening for the summer, however. We will be offering that. And how are staff being compensated? We have maintained our compensation for our staff in their current rate. We're using only our full-time team to make sure that they are reimbursed for the work that they're doing. The funding has been mostly local. It's been through foundation grants and different forms like that. Right now, there's a lot of the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa is funded primarily through donations and grants and events and sponsorships. So unlike other programs across the country, some are really fee-based. Ours is really focused on receiving grants. So we've been looking for these, and we found a few. In terms of additional child protection training, no, and the rationale for that was we have a policy and process in place for having the two staff, and it really does feel like you would see any program. So although it's online, no child's allowed in a room without two staff that are present. So we follow our policies and procedures of ensuring that no child's left behind and alone. So we're just following our regular practices.
Thanks, Adam. And there'll be lots of time for questions and interaction, so I'm going to move us along then. And I am going to pass things over to Tammy Botham from the town of Innisfil.
Thank you, Diane, for having me today. I was asked here to speak about the rural perspective of recreation program. So for those that don't know or are familiar with Innisfil, we're a small municipality of about 36,000. We're north of the GTA, but being a little bit different, we actually span a geographical area the size of Mississauga. So we have many hamlets that we have to service within our town. So as many of you, when we were put into the situation with the COVID, we early on started canceling, obviously, our winter programs. We sat down with our leadership team and we were asked to switch gears, look at what we could still offer our municipality. How could we continue offering our services in the different departments? So like many, we jumped onto the YouTube idea. We thought it was easy enough for instructors to record their classes, and we found out quickly that that wasn't as easy as it sounded. So there was lots of technical requirements with YouTube, having it set up. There was tips and tricks in providing good videos, and not all of our instructors, being in rural community, were able to follow all of the requirements. So we also started finding, because we reached out with spring coming, our spring program's opening, we reached out to the instructors to see who was interested in offering programming. We found out very quickly as the government agency started streaming out funding for the self-employed individuals that we were having instructors that could make more money staying at home than offering programs. So we did have a decline in our program offering as far as instructors. We are continuing to pay our instructors that are working with us. The other thing we found out with the YouTube is we were running into copyright issues, whether that was music or small businesses that we deal with to run our programming that aren't permitted to live stream their program. So at that point, Diane, if we can go to the next slide, we decided to regroup, and the municipality looked into Zoom. We were currently using Zoom for all of our leadership and departmental meetings, and we thought, why can't we continue our spring programming as we were doing? Same time, same place, just out of the instructors' homes. So as we said, we quickly changed gears. We're still offering YouTube opportunities for those instructors that preferred to pre-record their program and put it up on our website. But for the others that weren't able to do that, it was programs as usual. So with the support of our IT department, we set up additional Zoom accounts to accommodate multiple classes at the same time. So for those that aren't familiar with Zoom, you cannot set multiple meetings at the same time, so you do need multiple Zoom accounts if you have programming running at the same time. And you'll see on the screen that's a screenshot of some of our programs that are running on a given week. So the process basically was that we emailed all the participants that were registered in our spring program and notified them we were going virtual, and if they'd like to continue, their registration stood, but we obviously were not charging. So we continued with the registrations as usual through our ActiveNet software, and we applied a COVID-19 discount to the virtual programs. This way we can track the amount of revenue loss in the past or in the future. Offering free programming to anyone who had already signed up. Doing this, it also covered us in the liability waiver for the participants that they typically sign when they register online. So it took a lot of background information that we didn't have to do because we're using our typical registration process. Once the registration was processed, an email notification would come into the recreation staff. And from there, a meeting request with a Zoom login is sent out to the registrant or the participant in order for us to keep the programming private. So as the instructor would log in on night, we use the waiting room security measure, and the instructor would check her attendance list and his or her attendance list and let the participants in based on that list. So you'll also notice on that sheet is our web address. We just updated our web site last night, so that's our new web address. If you go to that, you'll find all the stuff that I'm talking about today. So next slide, please, Diane. So how did this all work for us? So once we were able to get these people that were already registered into the spring programs, they were all set up with their Zoom accounts, we opened it up to the public. And with the assistance of our communication department. It was fantastic with the feedback that we got. We have now went up about 60% of our registrations. So originally it was double, and now we're up to more than 60%. We have new participants that we're communicating with the public that hadn't taken our programs in the past. The benefit to the community has been fantastic. Being a rural area, not everybody can get to our programs, so being able to offer this at their own homes has been nice. People can feel, though, that they're continuing with something that they did before COVID. So if they always took a yoga class on Monday night at 7 o'clock, they could still do that. They're logging on, they're seeing their friends in their classes, they're seeing their instructors. We also have a very supportive council. So council since day one has encouraged us to support our community through this difficult time. Obviously, this is a huge budget impact due to our revenue loss. But at this time, council focus is mental health in our community, and that's our top priority. So that's how we're currently running through the YouTube and the Zoom online ActiveNet registrations. So what's next for us? What's happening is in Innisfil, we're a rural community, a commuter town. So we're looking at actually continuing our Zoom registration classes into the fall session. We think it's something that many of our youth, seniors, our stay-at-home parents that struggle to get to our programming due to transportation, bad weather, we feel this will assist those that cannot get to our programming locations. So we feel that we will offer our normal programming, hopefully when we get back to somewhat of a norm, but we're going to make this a new addition to our programming department. So stay tuned for fall programming from Innisfil, as we will certainly be offering some sort of virtual component to our recreation programming. Another couple of things I'd just like to mention is our municipality, as you're aware, uses ActiveNet software. And last week we sat on a webinar with them regarding virtual summer camp opportunities. ActiveNet has partnered with Zoom and a company called BrainChase to offer virtual summer camps. BrainChase is a summer camp in a box, if you will. They offer things like escape room, treasure hunt, typing classes. From what we've been told, you can fine-tune your camp to full day, half day, whatever type of camp you like those examples I just gave. So we are waiting for additional information on that opportunity because we don't want our community to go without any programming all summer. So that's one thing that we are looking at. And another thing that we do here in Innisfil every year for the past few years is we have offered a youth mental health summit in partnership with the Simcoe-Muskoka YMCA. High schools across Simcoe County attend a day of youth-led speakers, workshops, and education sessions at our Innisfil Recreational Complex. We've had about 400 youth attend each year. We've had keynote speakers like Connor Chris and Gabrielle Daleman, who are hockey and figure skating worlds. This year, we're changing our gears again due to COVID, and we're moving this event virtually. We're creating a resource page on our website, on the town website, where the youth will be able to go on and find speakers, videos, motivational recordings from teachers, agencies, and other youth. All principals in Simcoe County will be distributing this link to their students, because we do know that here in Innisfil, our high school they're only seeing about 40% participation in their classes. So we didn't want to make it a virtual come-to day. We felt that if we could provide them with all of the information, that they can go on and look at it at the time and need, or whenever it works for them, it would be an easier solution. So we're hoping to have all of that information up and running by mid-May. Our summit does typically run annually the last week of May. So that's what's happening here at the town of Innisfil. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. I'm not sure where we left off. So thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Tammy. That's a great overview. I think the speed at which you were able to adapt in a small community is amazing, and to have the support of council to look at this on a long-term basis, I think is also great. So we have one question: is are your instructors insured through the town, or were there any concerns with insurance?
So because we are a rural municipality, our instructors are not employees of the town. Our instructors are contract business people, so they are responsible for their own insurance coverage. So that continues as normal. That would be no different than if they were in one of our facilities.
And you mentioned when we chatted that because the people were going through the online registration process, there was already the waivers and everything that was part of that process, so that helped facilitate some of that risk management.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to not cancel our spring programs right off the get. So, and when we did cancel, well, when we did say they're not running, we didn't do cancellation of the course, which would have then lost all of our registrants. We kept everybody on in the system. You know, we gave credits to all the accounts. This gave us the opportunity to reach out to all of these in the specific classes and say, hey, are you interested? So yeah, the way we're processing it, it just covers as we would normally be. The only difference is the instructor's in their home, the people are in their home, they're not in our facilities.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody did ask for clarification on the virtual summer camp, and thanks to Beth for providing its brain chase and partnering with ActiveNet, the provider. That's great. Thank you, Tammy. We're going to, in the interest of time, we got about half an hour left. Please keep your questions coming. We are recording this webinar. You'll get a copy of the slides and the recording, as well as the chat box. What we'll try and do is stick all the answers underneath these questions and share with everybody so that we can make the best use of this information. Someone has asked if you could expand on the copyright issues with YouTube versus using Zoom. So we know that if you put a video up on YouTube and you're using certain types of music, YouTube has a bot, I'm going to say, that goes and cleans that music off, and so you would have no audio for that video. But with Zoom, my understanding is because you're using it as a classroom and using it in the way it's intended, it's not up there to be pulled down later, that's how you get around the copyright thing. Is that correct, Tammy?
Yeah, I believe that's my understanding. And the reason we kind of fell into the copyright on the YouTube is we were having a departmental meeting, a leadership meeting, and our CAO likes to put music on as we're waiting in any meeting, and our YouTube accounts got actually frozen, so we weren't able to continue with our town-wide meeting that day because we got locked out. So we quickly learned about the copyrights on the YouTube page. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of fitness providers are just seeking out music that is rights-free so that they can continue to use Facebook Live and Instagram Live, and that's certainly a way around it if you do want to continue to use your Facebook accounts and things like that to meet the needs of your community. And someone's asked if for supplies for programs. So if you need, if it's an arts and crafts program, how you're dealing with supplies. I don't know. I'll throw that open to any of our presenters today. Do you have you had thoughts on how you might do that?
At this time. Sorry, at this time for us, most of ours have been dance or fitness activities, so we haven't gone into a lot of the general interest programs that are arts and crafts at this point, but I'm sure we'll be falling into that through the summer.
Right. So yeah, you're doing so. I think Aislenn's asking examples of programs using a dance, monkey gymnastics, I think was one of the programs that I saw on your site, Tammy. So they're the more of the physical activity rather than the kind. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, I didn't. If I go back here, you can you can't really see what the types of programs are. It's a little mini. But if you go on the Innisfil Leisure Programming site, you can see. You can certainly see the types of programs. Adam, did you want to add on to the arts and crafts discussion?
Yeah, we've actually had craft kits built, and we're actually going to leave them in front of our buildings. So call our families, and then have those on their walk, their daily family walk, pick up the craft kit. So that they can bring it home. The other thing that we've done with the Shopify partnership is had coding kits mailed to their houses. So we've had 2 different models of delivery to ensure the families are getting the equipment they need to be able to run the program.
Great, thanks. And just to close off on the rights issue, so thank you for the, I think that's probably Jody in Innisfil saying that SOCAN fees do not cover YouTube, but they do cover the Zoom. So if you do use, if you're submitting your SOCAN fees as you should, and Resound, there are limitations on what that covers. So that's great. So thanks for the comments, and thank you, Tammy and Jody in Innisfil. I'm going to pass things over to Heather Davidson, who is wearing two hats today, as I said, and is going to start with telling us a bit about what the Ontario Camps Association is working on, and a little bit about them if you don't know.
Thanks, Diane. Actually, if I can do this, and I'm pretty sure everybody can, I was actually supposed to be presenting at the PRO conference this year about the benefits of being a member of PRO and High Five and OCA. So before I start, so that I know how much I need to talk about, can I just see a quick show of hands who actually is a member of the OCA right now? Because I'm sure there's at least one or two of you. I shouldn't be alone.
We are.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So at least a few people are. That's great. So for those of you that aren't, just so you're aware of OCA and Ontario Camps Association and what we do, there's over 444 member organizations right now. 200 plus are day camps, 170 plus are overnight, and 45 to 50-ish are a mix of the two. Many of our camps have an outdoor education center as well, and we're starting to see some standalone outdoor education centers, which has been quite an interesting process for us too. And right now, for those of you, if you're going through your Quest 1, the Standards Committee of the OCA has over 600 standards that we expect members to maintain each year. So it's a lot more legislative bent. They're still looking for quality, but it's a legislative look that they're taking at things. And if you want more information, the website's right there. So that's pretty much all I have to say about OCA specifically. But if you can move on to the next slide, Diane, I'm going to talk about where we fit in. I've noticed a lot of you guys are talking about camp, so you're my people right now. So basically what happened, as I'm sure it did to a lot of you, is COVID hit, and camps started to panic, but they moved that panic into a very productive way, and a lot of them went online right away, reaching out to their campers and their families in person, online, sending letters, things like that. And it started to kind of look a little bit like the Wild West. So we were seeing things pop up all over the place that went from like a Camp TikTok account to a YouTube account to people that were doing Zoom accounts and other things. I've been invited to, I would say, no less than about 10 webinars every week, showing me some new sort of software that I could use and promote to people to use. What came out of that was kind of a feeling that there should be at least some sort of a guideline for safe and high quality programs. We already do that with High Five and with the OCA standards already. It's just online. We don't talk about that a lot. So we started to talk to some other people, started to talk to PRO. We heard PRO was talking to the Boys and Girls Club. We've all kind of been working together to kind of get to a place where we can do something. We, as the OCA, also reached out to the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. And for somebody that was asking earlier, is there a staff training that you can do? They actually have a staff training that we are promoting to our members that is called Commit to Kids, helping organizations prevent child sexual abuse. But we understand that it doesn't just end there. This best practices is very much in a draft phase right now, but it's moving rapidly. At our board meeting yesterday, we approved it to go on to the next phase. We're going to be talking with PRO a little bit more and with the Boys and Girls Club hopefully a little bit more to make sure we're all on board with the kind of same ideas that we're looking at. But the more exciting thing that I really wanted to tell you guys about is I don't know how much time you spent with camp people, but camp people are very much in the can-do attitude sort of mentality. And this link that says collaboration on Slack, I would guarantee that any question that any of you have ever had about online camp, in-person camp, how you're dealing with COVID, someone on this Slack community has been asked and answered 100 times over. It's been the best resource that I've seen out there anywhere for anybody to have any questions about how we're doing camps during COVID. So I strongly recommend that you go on there. That link that's on the slide is actually an invite to you to join. Say hi to me if you join.
See the slide.
Oh, we will make sure that you get that. My email address is heather.davidson@hamilton.ca. I will throw that in the chat. If you just email me if you need any of this information, I will email it right to you. then the American Camps Association, I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't talk about the amazing work that they're doing. They have a staff of over 60 full-time people that are working on things like this. They came out with their best practices just a few days before we had ours finalized to go to the board. So the link there, and again, I'll get that to you, will take you to their best practices for online. There's so many of them out there, but what we're looking for is ones that specifically deal with camp. Diane, if you could move to the next slide, I think we talk a little bit more about what exactly we were doing. So
yeah, so Heather, I'll just interrupt for a second and say we're getting a bit of background noise from people who are on the phone. So if you please could mute your phone line, either locally or using the specifically, a couple of people, we're hearing some children in the background. And thanks, Heather, for putting in your email. I will be immediately following this sending out the slide deck to everyone who is on the call today or registered for this webinar. So please feel free to, and at that point you'll be able to click on those links as Heather said. So thanks, and carry on, Heather.
Thank you. Yeah, so what we wanted to look at is working with vulnerable populations and what are some specific things that we should keep in mind. Now, you're going to hear me start verging into the other half of what I have to talk about today because on the flip side of things, I'm working with older adults and some other virtual programming. So my two worlds started to collide a little bit with camp and older adults. And in this case, we started to discuss if you're doing virtual programming and you witness abuse, what is your duty to report? Many of us would know exactly what to do if we were in a recreational program and we saw that, or if we were at a regular camp and we saw that, but what happens if you see that online? And that's sort of what we're delving into. Participant privacy, knowing what they can see of each other's houses and knowing what information they're sharing with each other. This morning, I had a senior center program on the phone, and one woman almost shared her email with everybody inadvertently. It's just things like that that you need to kind of plan around. Behavior management has been a huge one that we've actually had with my seniors, but also one that I'm sure we all encounter when we're working with any age group. How do you do that online or on the phone? I was at a webinar the other day, and they went through an entire scenario talking about how in one of their online Zoom type classes, they had a participant sibling come in and start beating them up and how they dealt with that. Well, what do you do when you have children that are acting out? I'm sure we've all seen some funny YouTube videos of classes where the students are pranking their teachers, but in reality, what would we do if that happened in our case? And then talking about high five, it's a little bit difficult to have an individualized approach when you're talking about virtual programming, and I love that Adam was talking about whether or not you could Quest 2 your online programs. We were having that conversation this morning about doing a PHA Quest 2 on our seniors program. So that's something to consider, is that the individualized approach and experience that your participants are getting in person, how do you replicate that online or on the phone? And then the last thing I wanted to make sure that everybody has in the back of their mind when you're coming up with your own best practices or your own procedures for doing virtual or online programming is emergency action planning, which when you think about it, you probably could tell me off the top of your head exactly how you would deal with most, if not all, of the emergencies that might happen in front of you. But what happens when it happens on the other side of a screen or on the other side of a phone? And just to share a quick story, we did our phone call-in thing that I'm going to tell you about with the City of Hamilton. We were calling one of our seniors, and when she answered the phone, she was crying hysterically, saying that her nose wouldn't stop bleeding and had been bleeding for an hour. And that was the moment that we realized that we needed to have a process in place to deal with things like that. So we now have a process in place for emergency action planning, and I can talk about that a little bit more if Diane can flip to my next and last slide. So the Senior Center Without Walls, if those of you who are in Ottawa are familiar with the one that's out there, we were so inspired by that we started our own. Pre-COVID, we were only able to run about 2 times a week. We had max 15 participants. COVID has been the silver lining to this program. Since the restrictions have been in place, we've bumped up to 20 classes per week. We go up to 4 times a day. We have 130 users. And when I sent Diane this slide, we had 94 unique users. By this morning, we were at 101. It's fantastic. I love this program. It's a great way to connect with isolated seniors, and there's more and more seniors that are joining in. This morning we partnered with our public library to do a book club. Last week they did a story time. We do trivia. We do Family Feud. My personal favorite is Finish the Lyrics and Name That Tune. But with great expansion, to paraphrase Spider-Man, comes great responsibility. And so, as I said, we've had to come up with emergency action planning. So we went through and got emergency contact info for all of our participants, which was no mean feat. Seniors don't always want to answer their phones when you call. They're not always trustful of sharing information. Once we explained why we were asking for it, they volunteered emergency contact information, phone numbers, addresses, and everything like that. Our thinking was if something did happen and we needed to direct EMS to them, we needed to have an address. We needed to let somebody else in their life know what was happening. Participant caps, that goes along with the behavior management I was alluding to earlier. All these programs are certainly a lot of fun. It gets difficult when you get closer to 20 participants over the phone with everybody talking over each other, people trying to get the answers out before other people, people arguing, people feeling as though they're being bullied. So participant caps became of huge importance to us pretty quickly, and we've actually been discussing 15 or 20. And it sounds like that's not a ton, knowing that we have anywhere from 3 to 5 staff kind of supervising the phone calls. But yeah, and then the controlled expansion, we've unleashed a week at a time the new program. So our most recent shows that the week of May 11th, we're going to be expanding our mornings to start at 10 a.m. and that we're also going to be having some special guests come in. And you asked, how are we promoting the program to those who don't have access to a computer? We had posters in rec centers. We are using all of the different avenues that we had prior to this. So as I'm sure many of you are aware, older adults, yeah, many of them are using online. Many of them aren't. We also just conducted reach out to every single person at a membership at our senior centers. So that was over 3,500 people with phone calls and or emails. We made over 1,000 phone calls to people over the last week. And we're also with our partners at the library that are also doing similar phone calls and outreach and reaching out to things like VON and other organizations in the area that are interacting with seniors is basically how we are getting in touch with people. That was a lot of phone calls, but it was a really actually great way to touch base to our membership.
Thanks for that, Heather. And another municipality that is doing a very similar program, Brampton has started a virtual cafe for seniors, and they were using 311 to ensure that if people were phoning in, that 311 had the information, and they engaged the fire department to put up posters in seniors' residence. So I thought that was a great initiative to do, and they're doing exactly the same kind of format that you're doing, and they're theming their talks around a different theme each week, and they were doing Cinco de Mayo this week, and they're doing sort of different themes. So I have that information as well, and I'll be sharing that in the chat when I send out the information. I just wanted to give some props to Brampton because they were helping us with this as well. So I'm just looking at so you answered that question. Somebody else is typing, but Heather, anything else you want to add on?
No, really, we have nothing to hide. So if anybody has any questions about OCA or Senior Center Without Walls, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are really in recreation and camp all in this together. No, we don't have them sign a waiver form to participate, but we have started using disclaimers about, I can give you the wording for the disclaimer because we just had to tweak it again this morning before we start our programs each day.
Yeah, well, interesting. Okay. How do they do the waiver then? If it's a phone conversation, they have to provide it by email, or?
So what we've been doing is at this point we only have one program that's active, and we did reach out to our risk management folks to just kind of figure out what the wording was for the disclaimer before the course, so it's always the same. And the issue that we're dealing with right now in terms of instead of a waiver is we're just reminding everybody that there's I don't know exactly the wording because we again did just tweak it again this morning, but it's some words about mutual respect, understanding, and that the opinions of participants don't reflect the opinions of the City of Hamilton. And we're basically striving towards people remembering not to share their personal information and muting where we need to. And that's been, actually I should mention that, we've been using Cisco WebEx, and the ability to mute participants if they get inappropriate has also been quite helpful.
That's a good point. That's another. I think a lot of municipalities are using that the Cisco WebEx as opposed to other formats. So that's great. Thank you, Heather. That was a fantastic overview, and Pro is incredibly honored that the OCA and Boys and Girls Clubs are working with us to support this rapid change in the way we have programs and the way we are presenting information and programs to our citizens. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to our final speaker today, and that's Beth Fisher from the University of Guelph. Good morning, it's the afternoon. Good afternoon, Beth.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much, Diane. Thank you very much for having me here today to present. Taking a look at the university or college perspective with regards to engagement, we serve a wide variety of communities, right? We have our students, faculty, staff, as well as greater community in many cases for colleges and universities. Our camp program has really expanded in the last 2 years, specifically with making those connections with families and making them feel like they're a Griffin part of the community and how much we do outreach. So when we made the call back in March to close our facilities, this was right before March break, and a lot of us were doing our March break camps. We wanted to ensure that we were still connecting with our families and that they knew that their camp family was still here to support them. So much like many of you, we turned to Facebook, where our camp family is very active. We began posting videos, activities 2 or 3 times a week, starting the week of March break. And again, they were a variety of self-directed activities. We did a video on how to do partner activities and games at home with somebody that's in your house, coloring sheets. We would do brain teasers and then come back a couple days later with answers to keep kids engaged or try things out on their own. The main factors for us were really about maintaining that camper engagement, making sure we hadn't, they knew we hadn't forgotten about them, creating that connection in our community or maintaining it. And much like a reference back to what Adam was talking about earlier, is bringing joy back into those families that are experiencing a lot of stress and uncertainty in those times, and knowing that there was still fun out there for them. That was really important to us. We adopted a messaging that was going around in the camping industry that you probably would have seen through OCA and other online avenues, is the idea of stay home to come home. So a lot of our messaging also revolved around thanking our campers, our kids and their families for staying home, doing their part with social distancing, making sure they understood how much we appreciated what they were doing and how hard this was on them as well, and that doing this and being part of the community of keeping everybody healthy means that we would at one time still have a camp home to come home to, because we know that for a lot of our kids, camp is the next safe place for them, much like their schools. So we wanted them to know that we still considered them part of our family as well. Diane, you go to the next slide, please. So with our virtual engagement, a lot of our, so this is one of our examples for you as well. Like I was talking about, we did the Scavenger Hunt brain teaser. So this was one of our big boosts that we did. So we had a alphabet scavenger hunt. So they got an activity sheet and everybody needed to find things common in their homes, not going out and making things, no purchases, family-friendly stuff. They could gather them all and send a photo. And this is an example you're seeing right here of the Scavenger Hunt activity sheet that was sent out. So families could submit just a photo, no faces, no names, to us, and we did an extra boost and incentive. So what we ended up doing, and we told our families that if we got at least a minimum of 20 submissions, that Kevin, our active kids coordinator, would get a pie in the face. And our families went crazy. This is something that we do as a tradition during the summer at least twice. So it's something that is a tradition for us as well, and they came to expect. So we had fantastic response. And as you can see, Kevin got the pie in his face. And the other piece on the activity sheet that we did on this live video stream on Facebook was that families could actually submit their own items that they wanted our coordinator to find in his own home to do his own scavenger hunt. And at the just before the pie in the face, Kevin actually showed all of the items that he had to find, and we were able to do shout outs to those kids by first name. And the kids just love hearing their names online, and they thought it was the coolest thing ever, and it maintained that connection of what we did. So that was a lot of fun. Our next steps, like many of you were talking about, and as well going back to what Adam said earlier, is those, those Zoom sessions with those counselors, guided crafts. Adam's really on the right page. We were also investigating as well. We're working with one of our craft suppliers right now to design craft in a box or camp in a box that can be delivered either in person or again as a pickup out front of our facility, that would have the activity sheets, craft supplies basics, some camp swag that those kids could use. And the additional fee could be just camp in a box for self-directed, or the next level could be camp in a box with a next level of pay that you actually have the login for Zoom connection with the counselors, and you could do guided craft with the counselors, story time, physical activities, games, dance parties, whatever have you. So that's kind of where we are looking right now. And again, in the college university sector, it really is about the balance of utilizing your employees right now at a distance. It's still engaging with our students who just finished their winter exams, our faculty and staff, as well as our community as a whole. So our launch into more of the Zoom platform or the Camp in a Box right now is very minimal, and we're just kind of dipping our toes in the water, but we're really excited about what's to come. Okay, Diane.
Great. I'm going to just interject here with a little Facebook comment as something that I saw while I was researching this topic was in the U.S. Their March break, or they have spring break, which is a little bit later, and they had an activity sheet that they used. I thought, oh, that's a great activity sheet. But what they didn't know was that they were posting campers' activity sheets, which included their name, their favorite things, a drawing of themselves on a public Facebook page. So it was a little bit of a shock to see that that kind of information. Who knows how big the community was. I sure hope they took it down after the fact. But it was, it was a cautionary tale for sure. And I think that, our tech savviness has to improve in order to be sure that we are providing that safe environment.
Absolutely, I completely agree. We even got to that idea too. We had a regular coloring page that we use, regularly in our summer camps. And again, it would have the opportunity, if we were doing draws, let's say in the week, it would have the child's name and the parent's email address. So if we wanted to use that, we needed to modify that before we use a sample of it online, where it only had the child's first name, but they could still participate in a coloring sheet that they had a recognition and a connection with already.
Great. And I've moved us on already.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
No problem. Thanks so much. So as well in the college and university sector, we're seeing a huge shift in our social recreation to e-gaming and e-sports. In the American schools, you're seeing, almost NCAA level tournaments going on, and we're, again, just starting to get into the space where we're bringing this to our students. So currently right now with COVID, this has kind of accelerated our plans to move forward with stuff like this. So right now we're starting to offer our online tournament structure. Currently 1-versus-1 team play for some of our games, or team sports for, right now we're doing our kickoff registration and today for our NHL 20 tournament. And what we're seeing was really exciting is that we're able to market to students who don't traditionally set foot in our athletics facilities. What we've actually found in the last few weeks is that the percentage of new accounts that are being created in our intramural online tournament software has increased greatly. So what this tells us is that these are not our students that are returning that participate in our traditional sports intramural programs during the school year, that we're reaching that student community base that doesn't regularly participate in our traditional sport recreational programs. So that's really exciting for us to be able to market to this new audience. I want to give a lot of support and thanks to other colleges and universities in Ontario, especially places like Durham College and also Western University, and I know that I'm missing others, where they've taken another step further, much like in Durham, where they actually have space within their facilities where they have the physical consoles that you can come in and do the play right there as opposed to just online. Now, there are a lot of considerations when starting out with this, again, much like the rest of our programs with waivers and needs. Depending on how you're rolling this out, using it in Zoom, using online platforms, or play and hope that they report on their own, is that they need to be age and organization appropriate. You don't have a lot of filters and ability, especially in, first-person shooter games where language can't be turned on and turned off at the organizer level. So making sure that you're getting that buy-in from what games you're choosing to offer, what kind of platform you're using for player standings, whether they're just posted online, whether you just want people to submit their results on their own, where a lot of colleges and universities who have organized intramural sport programs already have platforms. Some of them may be using IM Leagues or right into ActiveNet or other avenues as well. Some of them you can do a purchase for, out-of-the-box programs that you can have memberships with. So taking a look at stuff like that. It is still really important that you have registration and waivers as well, because you need to be able to connect with these individuals and players with regards to code of conduct, player ability, because again, you may not have the ability, depending on your platforms, have organizers in the games at the time facilitating that behavior management during the play. So this is where sport player code of conduct and age consideration really comes into play. Okay, Diane.
Great. Yeah, I know this has been a hot topic, so I want to make sure that we can get onto it. Aquatic programming is again something I know that is a huge revenue generator for recreation, but also a huge importance to the community.
In the pantry.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something we'll see happening, and developing over time. And if anybody has more questions as well, or need detail, or want to take a look at code of conduct, I'm also happy to connect you with our intramurals and clubs coordinator, and he's happy to talk through lessons learned and anything else you want to kind of talk through. So with regards to aquatics programming online, again, like many of our municipalities that you're seeing out there, there is, a need to make sure that we have our voice online as best as possible, along with all of the other active fitness programs that are going on, the outreach to youth and teens, family home activities, stuff that is, really out there. And municipalities are doing amazing jobs about posting this stuff. So how do we implement aquatics into that same thing when you can't bring a pool to somebody's home? A really great step into this avenue is to already harness the power of your water safety agencies that you work with, right? So lean on those, your friends and those agencies where you have the affiliation, like Red Cross and Life Saving Society, where you can already take the messages that they've developed and ensure that you're using that information to share with your community. You would be doing this anyways if we were in your physical buildings. You would have their posters. You would implement them into your Learn to Swim programs. They would be part of your social media. So making sure you're not holding back or stopping, that instead you're really moving forward, bringing these to the forefront on your web pages, social media, the best you can. We're heading into the summer weather. People are starting to open their outdoor pools when they're home and social distancing. So, let's lean into those backyard pool safety tips and tricks, right? The National Life Jacket Day is coming up as well. So really using your partners to make sure that those messages are still getting out there, because this is the time of the year that they need to be out there. if you're taking a look at your swimmers, your lap swimmers, your athletes, your swim clubs that are missing, there are a lot of swim clubs out there that we can also make sure that we're continuing our partnerships with in these times. So if you can partner with your swim club or your varsity swim coach and offer those dry land training tips, again, they can be short little videos, or just, they can do post workouts of the week and have people check in, see what they liked, and try and get the engagement going with your customers that way. The next step we're looking to take as well is for the athletics department, we've done a lot of Instagram takeovers over the last few weeks. So we've done one with our strength and conditioning coach, one of our nutritionists on campus as well. So our next foray is to do an Ask the Lifeguard. So we'll have one of our lifeguards as a volunteer to come on. We'll do a little bit of a profile about them, and then we'll have some guided questions that customers can, ask about them. So, what's your favorite memory about the pool, or what's your favorite swim stroke, or what's your favorite swimming lesson that you've ever taught, or, sing us a funny song that you love to swim during parent and taught time, right? And really make it as engaging and as fun as possible. I think is going to be a really fun tip for us to do. If social media is not available to you with regards to the municipality or the area that you work in, if it's, another alternative can be, if you're sticking to your website activities, you can always do, even if it's just a staff member highlight of the week. So highlight one of your lifeguards. This is Diane. She's worked for us for 3 years. When she's not at the pool, she also loves to knit. And, when she's at work, you can always find her because she wears the green whistle, or whatever it happens to be. And then you can do one about your customer service and membership staff member or your aquafit instructor. And this is another great way to continue to engage and have people keep coming back to your website week over week. We've seen a lot of really fun videos starting to pop up on the website. People are starting to share really fun activities about, videos at home or fun things to do in the bathtub and getting really silly. And those are a lot of fun to watch. I would approach these learn to swim videos or educations and tips and tricks with a little bit of caution. Providing disclaimers may not just be sufficient to ensure that there's constant parent supervision at all times. Again, we are not with them while these are happening or while they're watching them, and we aren't 100% aware about the ability of that parent to supervise in a backyard pool or their own personal swim ability to provide a rescue. So I would caution that first you consult with your legal department or your insurance provider before posting these on behalf of your municipality or organization or university. If they're silly and fun because you're doing a cannonball contest, so amazing. But watching about the learn to swim and how we are ensuring that there's still safe supervision for anybody who's attempting to use our tips. Now, I know that's a really big overview, and I know that I'm missing a lot of great things that you're seeing out there. There's some great organizations that are light years ahead of the things that I've posted here. And if there's anybody else that wants to share a tip or something that they're doing from the aquatics perspective, I know that everybody who's on the call today would love to hear them.
Thanks so much, Beth. That's a great, very quick overview. You're absolutely right, and good words of caution. One of the things that, again, I spoke with when I was talking to the folks in Brampton was the use of these videos, all the stuff that you're making now. Use it, think of it from how you can use it forevermore. What are those key messages that you can be putting out that can become part of your marketing, part of your ongoing social media engagement post pandemic, I'll call it, when facilities are open again. And so I think it's thinking about what it looks like now, but also what it looks like in the future, I think is really important. While we were chatting, we had a couple of questions, and I think they're really good ones. Mm-hmm. How are we going to deal with summer camp if parents need to go back to work, but we had physical distancing? And Ginger similarly asks, how can you do one-on-one, especially in a swim lesson, if we have to still maintain physical distancing? Those are the questions that everybody is asking, and we don't have answers for that because we don't know what the public health guidelines will be in terms of reopening. So we certainly know what the guidelines are for emergency care, for children's programs right now, for licensed to daycare for those emergency workers, and they are not. We couldn't sustain those over any length of time. And as I don't know if you've seen the news, but there was certainly one facility that did have a case, and it shut that facility down. So those are the big questions. And what PRO is working on, again, with there's like the OCA and Boys and Girls Clubs, and beyond at the national level, and Lifesaving and Red Cross in this as well, is the policy guidance that is specific to parks and recreation. Here in Ontario, we've got a 3-phase opening. We know that parks are going to be first. After that, we don't have much detail. But we know our citizens are going to want to get back in the pool. They're going to want to be back in recreation centers. And people are going to need places for their kids to go if they're going to go back to work. So we are hoping to get some guidance from government early on to help the sector respond and to help the sector be part of the solution that it should be. Certainly because recreation should be part of the economic recovery. And I know that this is something that we're going to be dealing with. This is probably the topic for the next webinar. So I hope for Sarah and Ginger, while we can't probably answer those questions, there's probably things we can do, and I'm sure, certainly in the aquatic area, that's where Lifesaving and Red Cross would be looking at modifying their program teaching methods that would ensure that quality, that safety, but also maintaining any distance required. So I know that there are certainly guidelines coming out in the states already from the CDC regarding sanitization, regarding openings, because they are clearly there are some states there that are opening up. And hi Merrick, thanks for the question. What is PRO doing to lobby the ministry to consider recreation stage 2? We meet weekly with our ministry, which is the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries, but we are also working with, we're connecting with Municipal Affairs and Housing. We are working with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I know that's only one avenue. And what we want to ensure is that we're opening at the right time and that it's consistent, so that citizens in Kitchener and citizens in Waterloo, which is always the municipalities I like to pick on that are next to each other, are experiencing the same kind of reopening, so that there's equity. And so that, because we know that as things begin to reopen, it's going to come down to those organizations, those providers, to be interacting with citizens. So we are doing a lot of work, both provincially with the government as well as doing work nationally with the Canadian Parks and Recreation Association. We are collecting data about the financial impact in order to ensure that there is awareness of what our sector contributes to recovery as well. So stay tuned for more on that, and it is evolving and carrying on. We have a few more people. Is PRO lobbying for fiscal resources to support small municipalities? Andres, we are working with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and certainly we are starting to hear some rumblings, perhaps, about support that may be coming. We don't know yet what it is, but I think looking at AMO and the breadth of its membership, is they are going to be the lead on advocacy for that, for sure. And in terms of what we are doing to support small municipalities at this time, we are bringing together senior leaders from across the province in order to gauge what the specific issues may be in that small municipality situation, and to try and support with the best resources that don't just work in Toronto, obviously, that work across the province. So thank you for that input. We definitely have not, we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. So I see Merrick is just typing in something quickly, and I know we're coming to the end of our time, so I'm going to take, while people are typing or any last questions, really just to thank our presenters today, Adam, who had to jump off already, Beth Fisher from the University of Guelph, Heather Davidson from the Ontario Campus Association, City of Hamilton, and Tammy Botham from the town of Innisfil. It has been fantastic having you here. Again, we will be publishing this chat with some answers in it. We will be sending you this recording and the copy of the slide deck so you can have all the links, and please share it widely. Give us your feedback. And for those that are Parks and Recreation Ontario members, please do log into our Knowledge Hub, which is if you click the sign-in area at the top right box and click First Time Login. And if you are a current Pro member, you will be able to access the Knowledge Hub where we are collecting information about COVID-19. We have an aquatics specialist area as well. So that's something that is available to Pro members. And Merrick, thank you for your last comment there about considerations. That is also something that we are working on in terms of providing that policy brief. We have sent something from CPRA already to government that is very similar to what they have done in California. I know they did it also in South Carolina, but thanks very much. So with that, my friends, I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and I hope everyone is safe and healthy. And I'll just say goodbye to our presenters and have them say goodbye to you as well.
Thanks so much, Diane, for hosting this today, and thank you so much to Pro. You know, if there's anybody who has any other questions, feel free to reach out at any time. The best thing for us all right now is collaboration and idea sharing, and hopefully this is just the beginning of it.
Thanks, Tammy.
Echo everything that Tammy just said. Thanks, Diane. Thank you, everybody, for joining and asking great questions, and hope to hear and see from all of you in the coming weeks and months.
You bet. And thanks again, Beth. All right, everyone, I'm going to shut us down, and as I said, have a fantastic weekend, and we will all be in touch soon.